welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and welcome to Vlogmas. I say that in quotes because I don't do actual Vlogmas of one video per day, but I do like to vlog through the month of December because there's so much Christmassy fun things to share with all of you. So I will be doing weekly vlogs again during the month of December, I hope, as long as nothing happens, because that happened in Victober where there was busyness that happened and sickness and I just fell behind. So we're hoping that that doesn't happen this time and that I actually get weekly vlogs out to you. So what am I reading this week? It is Friday, December 1st, the first day of December. And I have a lot of books that I'm going to start this month, but I really want to work on finishing one of them before I dive into a new book. So the book that I'm going to be focusing on this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is going to be Nickleby by Charles Dickens. I sent my copy somewhere and I don't know where, but that's going to be what I'm focusing on. I am 87% of the way through this book. I know that because I've been alternating audio and physical book, and I last listened to it on audio. So I'm 87% of the way through this book. So I'd really like to finish it over the weekend and start fresh on Monday with the new book. So that's my plan. This was a book that I started and was supposed to finish in October and did not. Fell real behind on that buddy read. So yeah, it's just been kind of like tucked in whenever I can find time and I'm not working through other books. But that's going to be my primary read this weekend. And I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully I can finish it with you and share my final thoughts with you. But I will check in and share with you what it is that I've actually finished and what I'm going to be starting when I get to that point on Monday. Hello, it is update time. Probably a little overdue. It's Tuesday and it's been a week, honestly, and I haven't read as much as I would like to. We had one animal that was really sick and we were very concerned about, and then my daughter's hamster passed away. So it's been kind of like a very sad and stressful week as we were worried about our other animal too, but he's doing well now. Thank goodness. But it has been a difficult week. But I did finish Nickleby. So it took me like 2 months to finish this. I took way too many breaks because I had made other commitments and just kind of was back and forth. And this was like my main audiobook for a while. And I really did like it on audio, but I read it physically as well. I alternated between the two. I really liked this a lot. I thought there were wonderful themes of like mercy and compassion and kindness to others who might be marginalized, and also kindness and compassion towards people who are villainous and not good people, and still being kind to them. And so I really liked it. I feel like it had all that good classic Dickens humor. It's not my new favorite Dickens, but it's still very solid Dickens. Definitely not towards the bottom of the pile at all. Really enjoyed it. Would like to reread it again at some point where I'm not taking breaks, and I wonder if I would rate it higher because I put it at around probably a 4, even though I really loved it, but it just like wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't top tier for me, even though it was good. So I'm kind of wondering if I reread this to where I wasn't taking the breaks and could have more time to focus on it, because my initial goal was to read a couple chapters of this every day and finish it for Victober. But life got in the way and I got behind and I just never caught up. And I think that if I was able to stick with that and do a few chapters a day, I think that maybe it's possible that this would be rated higher upon a reread. But there were elements that I just was not even a little bit invested in. And so I think that that's why it's not a new favorite, I guess. Our Mutual Friend is still like top tier for me, still like favorite of the favorites. So what am I reading now that I'm finished with Nickleby? I've started a couple of things. So I've started a new audiobook. I am listening to the Autobiography of Santa Claus by Jeff Gwynne. I am reading this for Victoria from A Musical Bookworm's Patreon, and it's really fun so far. I was a little bit apprehensive going into it because I'm not a Santa person. I just didn't grow up with Santa, and neither did my husband, so we just kind of automatically did not do Santa with our daughter. And I'm not anti-Santa in any way. I just have no nostalgic connection to Santa Claus. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a try, and I'm listening to it on audio, and I'm really enjoying it. I've listened to the first 2 chapters, and so far it's about actually St. Nicholas's life. It's like written by Santa Claus, and I think it's going to go over a lot of historical things and different traditions of Santa Claus throughout the years. But the first 2 chapters are about the actual St. Nicholas who lived, you know, I think he said he was born in 290 AD in the book. So I'm just like really enjoying the first 2 chapters. It's very charming. It actually focuses a lot on Christ, which is fitting with St. Nicholas, and I just am really enjoying it so far. Next up for my Patreon, I did start The Hobbit, and I haven't read very much of it, just the first chapter, but it just, do you have those books that you've reread so many times and are so nostalgic and comforting for you that you read the first part of it and it just like feels like it's bringing you home? In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It just makes me so happy. So we're reading this month because we are kicking off January with a reread for most of us, I think, of Lord of the Rings. So my link to my Patreon's always in the description of my video. So if you're interested in joining us for a Lord of the Rings read along, we're reading The Fellowship of the Ring in January, The Two Towers in February, and Return of the King in March. But we decided to prepare in December. We're going to read The Hobbit. So super excited about that. I'm also reading The Thief by Megan Welland Turner. I'm only 3 chapters in, so it's about 60 pages. I'm enjoying this one as well. This is for Patreon as well. This is what I'm reading for this month. So every month I pick a book that has been recommended to me by my patrons and do a dedicated reading vlog for them. So I probably won't go too deep into my thoughts in this one, but I'm enjoying it so far. It is about a boy who has bragged a lot about being a thief, and he actually ends up in prison because he stole the king's like signet ring. And so he's been taken out of prison by the king's magus, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, and they want him to steal something for them. So they're on this journey, but we don't know what it is that he's going to be asked to steal. But he's really sarcastic, which is really funny because everyone around him is kind of like proper and uptight. So I'm really enjoying the humor in this, and the world that's being built is really interesting. And lastly, I have been working my way through trying chapters of the books for my Read or Rid project that I haven't read yet, which is a lot of them. And I am doing a separate vlog for that with my thoughts on each chapter, but I just want to pop in here and say that I picked up The Memory Keeper's Daughter for part of that project, intending to read the first chapter and then move on to the next book, and I couldn't. I'm like 3 chapters into this. The writing is so beautiful. Like I was just really surprised at how beautiful the writing is. So let me just read this to you because it's so lovely. It was the sort of storm that rarely happened in Lexington, and the steady white flakes, the silence, filled him with a sense of excitement and peace. It was a moment when all the disparate shards of his life seemed to knit themselves together. Every past sadness and disappointment, every anxious secret and anxiety hidden now beneath the soft white layers. I just love it. I think the writing is so lovely. I think this book is probably, I don't know if it's going to make me cry or if it's going to make me angry. Because in the first chapter, we learn that there is this doctor and his wife is pregnant, and we learn how he met his wife, and he's kind of like reflecting back on their marriage so far. She's pregnant, and there's this massive snowstorm in Lexington, and they're unable to get to the hospital, so they get to a doctor's office, but the OBGYN ends up like fishtailing and can't get there. So he's delivering his own baby by the help of a nurse. He delivers a baby boy and then finds out like, oh my gosh, it's twins. It's in the 60s, so they didn't know that it was twins. The second baby comes out and it's a little baby girl with Down syndrome. And he's convinced that this baby is going to have nothing but health problems and be a burden to their family and cause more grief to his wife. So he hands the baby to the nurse and says, bring the baby to this address. It's a home for people with Down syndrome, and my wife doesn't even need to know. And so the nurse takes the baby, and he tells the wife that she had a second baby, she had a twin, and that the baby was born dead. And the nurse goes to take the baby to this place, and she can't leave the baby there. I know from reading the back of the book that the nurse decides to raise this baby as her own. So I think it's gonna be very probably sad, and things are probably gonna come back to bite this doctor in the butt because he lied to his wife and didn't want a baby just because it had Down syndrome. So I feel like I'm gonna be mad and also sad when I read this book, but we'll see. The writing is beautiful and I couldn't help but be sucked in. So that's what I'm reading right now. Will I finish any of these books by the end of the week? I don't know, definitely not The Hobbit. Probably not Autobiography of Santa Claus, although it's a pretty short audiobook. It's like, I think I have 7 hours left and I'm only 2 chapters in. Maybe I could finish The Thief by the end of the week. I don't really know. I'll keep you updated. Hello, it is now Friday, so it is time to wrap up this vlog. My daughter is playing video games in the other room, and hopefully you can't hear too much of the music for that to be distracting, but my dog was snoring in the other room and that felt more distracting. So I haven't made progress in all of the books that I've started this week, but I have read quite a bit of, or listened to quite a bit of, The Autobiography of Santa Claus by Jeff Gwynne, and I think I'm about 1/3 of the way through that. I'm like 1/3 of the way through the number of chapters there are. Some chapters are longer than others, so that math's probably not quite working out, but I'm actually been listening to it on Spotify, and if you don't know, if you have a Spotify premium account, then you have access to audiobooks. And I just found out that recently, but apparently you only get 15 hours free per month, and if it's more than that, then you have to like pay to add extra hours. However, this is a short audiobook. I think it's like, I want to say like 8 or 9 hours, something like that. So it'll fall well under the 15-hour mark. So I'm not really concerned about that. But it doesn't give me an overall percentage of how far into the book I am, unlike Libby or Hoopla or Audible that tells you the percentage. This does not. It just tells me how much time I have left. So that part's not very helpful, but that's okay. So I am through, I think, chapter 9 or chapter 10, and there's 28 chapters. So I'm enjoying it still. It's charming. We're kind of taking on more of the magical components of Santa now. Like we started with his origins as Nicholas, and then Saint Nicholas, and him being a bishop and some of that kind of stuff. And now we've come to the fact that he realizes that like he's immortal and he helped this person who was having some difficulties, and now that person is also immortal and is with him, and I'm guessing he's going to end up being kind of like an elf, or like overseeing the elves at the North Pole whenever we get to that point. So I'm thinking that's kind of where we're going with that. But I'm enjoying it. I still think it's cute. And then I did actually finish The Thief by Megan Whalen Turner. I ended up enjoying this. I'm not going to go too far into detail in it because I am putting out a vlog on Patreon for this with like my detailed thoughts. So I don't want to go too far into detail, but I enjoyed it. I felt like it was a bit pacey at times. Like it was really, really slow in the beginning and then less so for the rest of it. I guessed some of the like reveals, though not all of them, but overall I really enjoyed it. Thought it was really fun. It has a very clear ancient Greek inspiration, which I thought was really fun. And so it was a really fun one. This is the first in a series, and I don't know how many books there are in the series because I was thinking there was just like 4 or maybe 5, but the authors continued to put out books as recently as like a couple of years ago. So maybe she's not even done with the whole series. I know that the next book is The Queen of Atolia, and then there's a King of Atolia and a Conspiracy of Thieves, or Conspiracy of Kings, I mean. The weird thing is that there's like 2 different sneak peeks at the end. One of them is continuing the story of Jen, who is the main character of the thief, and he is a self-proclaimed famous thief who's so good at thieving and has been kind of hired by a king to steal he doesn't know what. And so it says that Jen's story continues in Queen of Atolia, but then there's another character who's a side character, and there's like the first chapter of that book is in the back of this book for a peek at his story. And so I wasn't expecting that. So it feels like not all of the books maybe go either from the same viewpoint or completely linearly. Is that a word? Maybe they don't go in a linear story. Maybe I should have said it that way. So I don't know. I really enjoyed it though, and I definitely want to continue with the series. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for joining for this very first week of my own version of Vlogmas. And I hope that all of you have had a good first week of reading in the month of December. Be sure to let me know what you've been reading in the comments down below, and if you've read any of the books that I'm currently reading or that I finished this week. I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.